Welcome to the Marketing Meeting podcast. Today, we are talking to the founder of Lean Marketing, Allan Dib. He's a marketing expert who is the author of two bestseller books, The One-Page Marketing Plan and Lean Marketing. Welcome, Allan.
Well, hey, Atia, pleasure to be on.
So I will ask you one question because at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, I just want to go through my goals of the day and what am I doing, how much progress do I have.
Nice.
And now I'm in the evening and you are in the morning
Yes.
because of the time zone differences. And can you talk about loose goals and tight systems? Because every day I feel like it's like big goals and tight systems.
Yeah.
And that was a very nice point that I could relate in your book.
So normally what we're told about goal setting is, we want specific goals, measurable goals, they call them SMART goals, things like that. And, I'm not necessarily against that, but it tends to make you, so you basically feel like you're losing until you hit the goal. And then for a short time, you feel good about this goal, and then you're like either you feel lost or you now have to set the next big goal and things like that. And I think it works for some people, but I like to think of infinite games. So how can we set a direction? So I call that a loose goal, where we set the direction. So where do we want to go? For example, I want to keep getting stronger, right? So I lift weights. So I have a tight system, meaning 3 times a week, I'm in the gym lifting weights, and I will do this forever. This is an infinite game. And my loose goal, is to get stronger, to keep getting stronger, to keep seeing progress, to keep going that way. So the goal never ends. So it's a loose goal, but a very tight system. So I'm not yo-yo dieting up and down. One day I feel like it, one day I don't feel like it, one day whatever. It's literally scheduled as a meeting in my calendar. So just the same as we're meeting today, because I've got a calendar appointment in there. I wouldn't go today, oh, you know what, I don't really feel like doing this podcast or whatever, so I won't do it. So no, I treat it like a client meeting. So it's a tight system. Something in my calendar is going to get done, unless there's some crazy unforeseeable, maybe if I ended up in the hospital or something like that or whatever. But other than that, things in my calendar get done. So that's a tight system, and I will keep doing that forever. I will keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And same with other goals in my life, whether it's wealth, whether it's fitness, whether it's relationships, whatever else. And I find that's a lot more motivating. It's a lot more exciting. You always feel good because you can, even if you're not making progress, even if you go backwards sometimes, I'm like, I'm in this for a long time. I'm going to be working out for the next 40 years. So, okay, if I went backwards in strength this week because of, I don't know, whatever else, something happened, I didn't sleep well, whatever it is, no problem. I've got 40 years to continue this infinite game.
I think this applies a lot to marketing as well. I mean, yeah,
Totally.
it's just like we put big goals every month, every week, but it's a long game. So you have to really do incremental steps, but it needs to have some tight systems.
Yes.
You wrote the one-page marketing plan in 2018. That was the year that I built my business. I went out of Nike, and 2018, I founded my company. And one of the first book that I read was your book. It helped me a lot. Even as a marketer, I took so many notes out of that. What has changed since you wrote that book? It's been a long while, actually.
Yeah. So a lot in that book is going to be relevant forever. So because I talk about things that are timeless principles, I talk about target market. That's going to be important forever, regardless of what's happening, TikTok or Instagram or other technologies or platforms or whatever. A message that's compelling to your target market, that's going to be relevant forever, regardless of AI, regardless of all of those things. So the vast majority of the things that are in there are pretty timeless, and I think probably more relevant than ever before. Now, what what has changed is we've just seen this flood of more. Every podcast you listen to, they give you 5 new strategies to implement. Every course you do, there's another 10 things you've got to do. You listen to somebody else and they say, okay, you've got to use this tool, this AI thing, this whatever. And so almost everybody is telling us to do more. But here's the thing. When I look at the best and most sophisticated marketers in the world, they're not doing 1,000 things. They're not doing 100 things. They're doing a few things very, very well, and they're playing that longer game. They're just doing the daily, weekly, monthly. So, for example, I spoke to Pat Flynn just yesterday. I was on his podcast. Great guy, but he's just been grinding away at his podcast. You know, people see him as this massive success, and he is. He's a huge success, and he's done really well. But he's just been doing this pretty much the same thing for the last 13 years. Is just doing a podcast episode every week or a couple of times a week or whatever, and just doing a really great job. Another friend of mine, a podcaster, Omar Zenhome, we just had a celebration 10 years of his podcast. So if you do reasonable stuff for a long enough period of time, it's almost unreasonable that you won't be successful, right? Like if I eat well, I don't eat processed junk food or whatever. I eat fruits, vegetables, meats, all of that sort of stuff. And I do that for 5 years. It would be unreasonable for me to be unhealthy, right? I mean, yes, things happen, random things happen or whatever. But if we do reasonable stuff for a reasonable time, you're going to get results.
I think this ties up to lean marketing where we are now, because I used to be in the production, and before I moved from production to marketing at Nike, we started talking a lot about lean production.
Yes.
So it was a very interesting topic for me, which I have the book here. I highly suggest. I have this a small separator from my niece.
Amazing.
in there. But there's a story behind lean marketing, I guess, right?
Yes.
I've never thought about that, and it really applies to marketing nowadays.
Totally. So the concept of lean started in manufacturing. And lean was basically a way to reconfigure a factory so that it had less equipment, less people, less waste, because it used to be that you would have to mass produce everything. You would have to produce huge quantities of things, store them, a lot of labor, a lot of equipment, and everything had to be pretty much a one size fits all. Whereas lean originated in Japan, and specifically an important part of the story is it's post-war Japan, where the country's like decimated after the war. They don't have the energy, they don't have the facilities, they don't have the manufacturing, they don't have the resources to do mass manufacturing. So now they've got to think of a different way to compete. And at the time, Japan was considered the worst quality stuff. Like if you bought stuff from Japan, it was just the worst quality stuff. And like this is like back in the 40s, right? And so 40s and 50s, and then Japan turned this around. They went from the worst in the world to the best in the world. And how did they do that? They did this with a concept called lean, where you do more with less. So less human effort, less equipment, less waste, less time, less space. And you do this by following a value stream. So we only create a product when it's demanded by a client. We only use the materials that we need. We make sure that the quality is right all throughout. So there are several principles of lean manufacturing, but the upshot is basically less waste, less time, less effort, and better quality results. And I was at a lean conference. I didn't know much about lean at the time. And, I was a guest speaker there just to speak on marketing. And someone came up to me and said, you know what? I've read the one-page marketing plan, and I really consider this like lean marketing. And that's the first time I'd ever heard that phrase. And I didn't think much of it at the time, but it kept going around in my mind. And so when I looked at the best marketers in the world, they had a very similar approach, a very lean approach to their marketing. They weren't doing 10,000 different things. They weren't spending a lot of money on things that created a lot of waste, a lot of interruption, a lot of spam, all of that sort of thing. That was kind of like traditional marketing, but these guys were lean. And so that brought me to create the lean marketing framework to really define and document the lean marketing framework, which I've done in that book, which you held up.
The book has 3 segments, which is like the force multipliers.
Yes.
But before we jump into that, everything for me as a marketer starts with the customer.
Yes.
And when you work with businesses, and also when you write all of these books, how do you help businesses identify and narrow down their ideal customers?
Yeah, so that's really a foundation stone. So a lot of people start with product or what they've got. They're like, look, we've got this product or this technology or this app or whatever. And they're like, all right, let's now go and try and find a market for it. And that's completely backwards. So what we want to do is stuff for our people, not people for our stuff. So meaning we know who our audience is, who we want to serve. So we have a very clear idea who they are. Often they're a past version of ourselves. So, and I think the reason that a lot of my work has resonated with a lot of small businesses and entrepreneurs is because I used to be in that position. In my very first business, I had no idea how to do marketing. I had no idea how to get a new client in the door. I was just an IT geek. I was really good at the technical thing that I did, but I had no clue on how to get a customer. And so I know what that feels like. I know the journey that people go on. I know the waste that goes on where you might spend thousands of dollars with an agency and then it just blows up and you get absolutely nothing out of it. So I've been there. So I think that's why a lot of my work has resonated, because I've been that past version of myself. So a lot of times a really good target market is a past version of yourself with whatever you've been. So if you're a fitness coach, it might have been when you were unfit and you took that journey, you know what it took to get there, or it might be you're an executive coach or whatever else. It doesn't really matter. So that's a really powerful target market to create. That's not always possible. Sometimes you just see a market opportunity and you want to capitalize on it. You've never been in that market, in which case you need to do a lot of research and figure out and understand that market at a deep level. So once we do that, the other bits start to fit in place, because if we understand a market really, really well, then we can create messaging that really resonates with that audience. When we create messaging that really resonates with that audience, they will respond to the message that we put out there. They'll click on the ad, they'll opt in on your website, they'll reply to emails, whatever your funnel or your sales process is. So that is the building block that makes everything else work. And then on top of that, we create lead nurturing, lead conversion, and all of those sorts of things, which I cover in my books. But a foundational element is figuring out who your target market is.
And then, so we know the target market, the target customer, and then you talk about force multipliers,
Yes.
and I really like that definition. It has 3 steps, not 3 steps, but 3 pillars: tools,
Yes.
assets, and processes.
Yes.
I would like to start with the tools. Do you want to first of all go through why you had these 3 multipliers, or you want to go one by one?
Yeah. So the if we want to do more with less, it implies that we need leverage. So anytime that we want to get a bigger result by doing less, it implies that we need leverage, which is essentially a force multiplier. We want to multiply the force of our inputs. So there are 3 major force multipliers when it comes to marketing. There are 3 real levers that you can use that make all the difference. And they are tools, assets, and processes. So tools, a lot of people are familiar with. So it may be like CRM systems, it may be like AI tools that are out there. So they're things that will do things in a fraction of the time or effort, and often automate things that are manual processes. So we've all experienced that. Hopefully, if you haven't, then there's an opportunity there in your business. So getting the right tools into your business. So it's kind of like if I want to smash down a brick wall. If I was just to do it with my bare hands, that would be very difficult, very painful, take a long time. If I have the right tool, like a sledgehammer, I could do it in a couple of minutes, right? So similarly, there are tools that will really multiply the force of your inputs when it comes to marketing. The second force multiplier is assets. So assets is what separates the rich from the middle class and the poor. So the rich make their income predominantly from assets. They own real estate, they own stocks, all of those things, and those things generate income. So from stocks, you generate dividend income. From real estate, you generate rental income. And a very similar thing happens in marketing. So if you have strong marketing assets, that will generate lead flow, that will generate revenue, that will generate clients. So these are things that you don't actively have to work for. They will come to you because you own that asset. I'll give you an example from my business, my books, right? Every single day, I open my email inbox and someone wants to join one of our programs, invite me to be on a podcast just like you did, invite me to speak at their event. All sorts of good things happen as a result of me having strong assets in the marketplace. So similarly, you want to build really good, powerful assets in your marketing infrastructure. In the absence of assets, like if you don't have assets in your business, similar to if you don't have assets in real life. So like if you own no assets in real life, then the only way that you can generate income is through labor. And that's exactly the same with marketing. There's nothing wrong with initially generating your income from labor, but it's not saleable, it's not scalable, and it stops when you stop. So that's their kind of really big downside. So similarly, you'll see people from a marketing perspective, they're doing cold outreach, cold calling, sending out tons of emails and things like that. And again, I'm not saying those things are bad, but they're very labor intensive. They're very difficult to keep up, and they stop working when you stop working. So if you generate marketing assets in your business, you're going to be able to generate a lot of lead flow, a lot of clients, a lot of revenue from that. The final force multiplier is
May I
processes.
ask a
Yeah, of
question
course,
before we
of
move
course,
on to
of course.
processes? For the assets, so our brands and our brand value is an asset as well, right? We can consider that as an asset.
You can constitute that as an asset. Assets that I think of in terms of a lead flow perspective are things. So I've got a process called the flagship asset. And so a flagship asset is something that you're known for, something that you're famous for, that creates a lot of value for your target market. Like I said, in my business, it's my book, but it can be there are tons of examples that I give in there. But for example, the Michelin star guide, that's an asset that Michelin used to sell tires, right? There are, if you're an IT company, you may offer audits or something like that. So that's an asset that you can create in your business that you'll become famous for. So basically what you want from a flagship asset is something that demonstrates that you can help your ideal prospect by actually helping them. It also highlights, exaggerates, crystallizes your uniqueness. It builds a lot of trust, brand equity with your audience. So, what's something that you could help your ideal target market with? Show them that you can help them by actually helping them get a little bit of a result in the beginning. Like, so many people will read my book and say, I read your book 2 years ago, didn't do anything with it at the time. We got to a stage where we really needed to up our marketing. I went back to your book, but now I'm ready to join one of your programs or whatever else. So that's an asset that's out there. Like I didn't have to cold call anyone, and I didn't have to email anyone. I didn't have to follow anyone. No, that doesn't mean we don't have a good follow-up funnel, but there's an asset that's out there when I'm sleeping, when I'm eating, when I'm doing whatever, that is creating a lot of value for my target market.
You mentioned about hunting and farming for
Yes.
marketing assets.
Yes.
Can you explain that metaphor? Because I
Yeah.
really liked it.
Yeah. So a lot of marketers are kind of hunters. So they're like, all right, let's get a list on LinkedIn and let's spam them with a message, or let's do a lot of cold prospecting or cold calling or whatever. And I'm not saying those things are bad. Like both hunting and farming are okay, but hunting is very labor intensive. It takes a lot of skill. It takes a lot of time. Your success rate is usually pretty low. So you might fire 100 shots and get maybe one if you're lucky. Whereas farming is a lot more predictable. So you sow your seeds, you water them, you take care of them, and then harvest time comes and you harvest. So, and again, random things can happen in life. Yes, a terrible storm can come and wipe out your crop. That does happen, of course, but most of the time it's pretty predictable, and if you do the right things, you're going to reap a good harvest. So similarly, from a marketing perspective, we want to do maybe some hunting, but also spend a lot of time farming. So planting those seeds, watering them, nurturing them, taking care of them, and then harvest when the time is ready. So many people have been on my email list, for example, for a couple of years, and they just weren't ready. For whatever reason, it was maybe a budget issue, maybe a timing issue, maybe they just didn't need it at the time or whatever. And then time comes when something's triggered in their business. They're now ready to get some help. They're ready to accelerate things or whatever. Had I 2 years ago said, time waster or tire kicker or whatever, and not kept in touch with them, well, that would have been a massive wasted opportunity. So we want to be able to nurture our leads until they are ready to buy, until something triggers in their life, in their business, in whatever, and they're ready to buy, and they're now much more open to hearing our message.
I usually get these interesting quotes from the team, from the sales team. We need to shout from the roofs.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm saying, I'm sorry to announce, but it's going to take a long time to build the brand.
Yeah, totally.
There will be, of course, short tactics, but it's going to take time. Please be patient.
Totally.
So I cut your word just earlier. You were mentioning the last step, pillar, which is the processes.
Yeah. So the last force multiplier is processes. So when we think about one of the most powerful tools in finance, it's compound interest. So I like to use wealth analogies because they're easy to understand. Everybody understands them, and they're also very relevant to marketing. So compound interest is a very reliable way to build your wealth, right? So if you invest a small amount of money over a long enough period of time, the compound interest will massively exceed what you actually put in. So how did that work? Feels like magic. So very similar from a marketing perspective. If we do the daily, weekly, monthly marketing stuff, if we treat marketing like a process, not an event. So an event is something we do one time, we do one big rebrand, we do one whatever. That's not marketing. That's a tactic. So marketing is the stuff that we do daily, weekly, monthly. That's how we win in the game of marketing, and that creates that compound interest. In the beginning, just like compound interest, it feels like we're really getting no results. It's not really working, but it will, if you keep doing it over time, if you keep doing the right stuff over time, it will compound and get you a really, really good result. You'll build that brand. You'll build that goodwill with your audience. You'll build that audience. You'll build that podcast like we talked in the beginning over a long period of time. Now, there are things that you can do to accelerate the speed and things that you can do all of that, but that's essentially how you win at this infinite game. We talked about loose goals, tight systems. That's what we want to build from a marketing perspective. We want to have loose goals, tight systems, meaning we know what happens daily, weekly, monthly. We've got processes. We've got people who execute that stuff. We know exactly what we're doing. And that's why we start with that plan, that one-page marketing plan, so that we have clarity around what it is that we need to do from a marketing perspective.
You mentioned about like the daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly events and
totally.
yearly calendar processes.
Yeah.
In your works, with your client works, what are some of the processes do companies overlook usually in that plan? Is there anything that comes up quite frequently?
Well, look. There's very, very common stuff that comes up frequently, but I'll give you an example. So most businesses have a website. Not many businesses capture leads on their website. Very, very simple thing that you can do is capture email addresses on a website. So we do that in our business, and we've captured, hundreds of thousands of people over the years who visited our website, and we keep in touch with them. So twice a week, we send an email to our list, and we send value building content. Now, we've done that for years and years and years, And
Hmm.
that consistently generates a lot of revenue within our business. Now, if we never captured those leads, I mean, there would be tens of millions of dollars of revenue that we would have left on the table there. And more importantly, we wouldn't have had the impact that we have. We wouldn't be in touch with as many people as we have. We wouldn't have guided a lot of businesses from a bad place to a much better place.
Hmm.
So that's a very, very simple thing that a lot of people do. They simply don't capture leads. And even if they do capture leads, a lot of time they don't keep in touch with those leads. Sometimes we'll work with a business and I'll ask, well, tell me about your list of past clients or whatever. And they'll say, all right, well, yeah, we've got 10,000 past clients. How often do you keep in touch with them? Oh, never is sometimes the answer. Once a year or twice a year or something, when we run a Black Friday special or something like that, is sometimes the answer as well. So there's massive wasted opportunities in your existing businesses. Most businesses, we find, can double their revenue without adding a single new client, just by either doing this simple stuff, which is keeping in touch with clients, having a good nurturing system, having a better conversion system, having better delivery. So basically, boring stuff that's not super exciting. It's not the latest funnel tool or the latest AI thing or whatever, but it's simple stuff. I often say common sense is not common practice. So a lot of what we do is making common sense common practice.
So you help to companies, and your book's also about that, like from strategy to execution as well.
Yes.
What are some of the mistakes that you see from companies moving from strategy to execution?
Yeah. A lot of times in the execution, so people talk about themselves, how good they are. We are awesome. We were founded in 1985. We are certified in blah, 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 whatever. No one really cares about that.
No.
A big mistake, so that's a huge mistake, is really kind of being self-focused in your marketing. It feels kind of counterintuitive, but you're spending all this money. Of course, you want to talk about yourself. No, you want to talk about your prospect. You want to talk about their problem. We want to enter the conversation that's going on in the prospect's mind. You know, uh, kind of going back to a fitness analogy, it's great that you're a wonderful trainer. It's great that you're certified. It's great that you won the Olympics or whatever. But what can you do for me? So I want you to talk
Yeah.
about my problem. I want you to tell me about how you took somebody else who was out of shape and turned them into an athlete or whatever else. So that's something that's now way more interesting. So when people are searching for something, they're searching for their problem. They're usually searching for what is an issue in their life. And that's what's going to enter that conversation going on in their mind and say, yes, that's for me. That's what we want our advertising and marketing to do. We want someone to say, hey, that's for me. I need, that's the problem I've got right now. So you've got my attention. But if you're talking about yourself, and great, you're awesome or whatever, but I'm generally not paying attention.
Hmm. You you have a lot of assets in your business, tools and processes as well. And
Yes.
then when I look to your website, your books, you've tested a lot of things
We
with
have.
your own company.
Yeah.
Was there anything that didn't work for you, or like your initial instinct was off with some of the tactics that you've tried, some of
Uh,
the things that doesn't work for you?
I would say the vast majority of things we try don't work. So you only see the successes, right? But yeah, I mean, we failed at a lot of things, which is part of the whole process, and it's part of what our clients really pay us for, so that they don't have to make the mistakes. But yeah, for sure. So we've made every mistake in the book. There are things that we paid way too much for that didn't get
Hmm.
a good return on investment. So yeah, many things, and it's contextual to every business. Something might work really well for one type of business or one type of industry or whatever, and it just doesn't translate into another industry. So, but the a lot of the things that I teach are timeless and will work across all businesses, all industries. So across all businesses, it's a good idea to identify your target market. Be very, very clear who they are. It's a very good idea to write copy from a problem perspective, as I mentioned, talk about their problems and their life, what's going on in their mind. It's a good idea to reach them on media that they're on. So the fundamentals kind of really don't change. The tactics, absolutely, they do change. Some platforms come in and out of favor. Some platforms start off working really, really well, some not so much. So if I was to think about right now, LinkedIn is a massive opportunity, especially if you're in B2B. I think the engagement is really high. It's easy to get good engagement and things like that. So who knows how long that will last. And, you know, in the past, we've seen it with platforms like Instagram. Now, Instagram is much heavier of a lift. It's more video oriented, which is harder to do. And it's all about really keeping the watch time. So from a tactical perspective, for sure, there's a lot of changes, but fundamentally, and most businesses don't have those fundamentals, right? Very little changes over time.
Yeah, because some of the things that I'm facing right now with the work that I'm doing, it's opposite to the lean marketing concept also,
Sure.
because everyone wants to create more content, but at the end of the day, our attention spans are the same, even maybe shorter than it used to be.
Yeah.
And everyone would like to try, every client would like to try every platform. Like, we need to be on YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest. It just goes on like that. And then which is hard to apply the lean marketing thinking time to time. But I'm, for example, a friend of mine recently asked while I was reading your book, he's from manufacturing, and he was like, oh, is it like, you know, you produce more with like more effectively and you produce more? And I'll say, for marketing, maybe not, because, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to produce more content or more communication. It needs to be the effective communication. So that's the
So I'll challenge something that you said. A lot of people say people have shorter attention spans. I don't think that's true. I think people have short boredom spans. So people listen to a Joe Rogan podcast goes for 3 hours, right? People watch Netflix series that go binge watch it for hours and hours and days on end. People will listen to audiobooks that go for hours. So I don't think it's true that people have a short attention span, but they've got a lot of options, which means they've got a short boredom span, which is if something is boring, I'm just going to click away or remove myself from it or whatever. So a lot of what we need to do, so that goes back to your content. So if your content is, we're really awesome, look at our product, then boring, next. But the stuff that we're interested in, we'll watch it for hours and hours, or we'll listen to it for hours and hours. So here's my formula for social media success on any platform. And you're not going to like it though. So it's basically, number one, we choose a platform. Number two, we post every day. Number three, we get a little bit better each day. And then we just repeat that over and over and over for maybe 2 to 5 years. So you will dominate that platform if you do those 3 steps.
What's that platform for you?
For me, I'm doubling down on LinkedIn. Like I said, a lot of my audience is there. I think it's got really good engagement at the moment. So I'm posting daily on LinkedIn.
What key changes do you expect in marketing over the next, let's say, 1 or 2 years? 5 years is a long period of time.
Yeah.
So I'll just say 1, 2 years.
Yeah. I'm really excited about what's coming because I think a lot of the technical barriers that stop people starting to get easier and drop away. It used to be a massive job or whatever to build a website, to integrate lead capture, to have one system talking to another. I think a lot of those technical challenges will become easier, and they are already getting easier, and AI and all of that. And so I was recently speaking at a conference for marketing agencies who are people who are experts at all that technical stuff. They're really good at building landing pages, building websites, doing lead capture, email follow-up responders, and all of that. And one of the things I said to them, guys, do you think the value of your technical skills is going to go up or down over the next few years? And it was kind of like sucking the air out of the room. And I said, look, the reason I'm here is to talk to you about getting better at strategy, at the strategic elements, the because the technical elements are going to get easier and easier and easier. You used to be able to do really well by being a really good technician at SEO or at pay-per-click marketing and all of that. And I'm not saying those things are not important. Those things are important, but the AI, the machine learning, the technical systems are getting better and better and better at identifying, this person is interested in this content, so I'm going to show them more. Now, it used to be hashtags, followers, all of that sort of thing. On platforms like TikTok, even on Instagram Reels, followers are not even that important anymore. The algorithm will show you things that it thinks you're interested in. So it
Yeah.
takes a guess based on your behavior. So if I swipe away at something, it'll show me less of that. If it sees, hey, I'm watching more and more of this stuff, it'll give me more and more of that stuff. So more and more the technical factors are getting less important, and the fundamental factors like right message to the right market, good offer, good follow up, all of that sort of thing. Those things are getting much, much more important. So I think that's really exciting. I think, and that really makes a lot of the stuff that I talk about, like in the one-page marketing plan, more relevant than ever, because I talk a lot about the fundamentals, the strategy, the stuff that won't change in a year, in 10 years, in 100 years, because we're talking about humans, and humans have the same psychology. They respond to the same things. They have the same fears. They have the same desires. They have the same hopes and dreams and all of that. So a lot of the fundamentals will become much, much more relevant, and the technical trickery that people have used to either get on page one of Google or spam someone or, be in your Instagram feed or whatever, they're going to go away.
I know that you love Mondays, although this is Wednesday for you. But the reason that you love Mondays is that you love your work.
I do.
And a lot of my friends now like searching for their souls, and then should they be consultants in marketing and so on. For the consultants in marketing, I want to ask a question also for myself too. What's some advices, like to-dos and not to-dos, that you can share?
Yeah, look, the thing I would tell you about building a consulting business is you don't want to go too wide. It's very easy to be all things to everyone. Oh, we do branding. Yeah, we do websites. Yeah, we do copy. Yeah, we do email, all of that. And that may be true. You may have some skills in all of those, but what's the lever that you're just awesome at? Like, is it copywriting? Is it helping someone with UX design or something like that? What's the thing that if I asked your friends or family, hey, what are you good at? What would they tell me? What's the thing that you could help someone with in your sleep, kind of thing? So that's the thing I would really double down on. And I think you almost just can't be too niche. There are people who, for example, all they do is like TikTok ads for accountants, right? Or there's a company that their whole agency, all they do is help you get testimonials. That's it. Like, they will interview your clients, they will help you post it, they will help with the scripting and all of that. So just choose one thing that you can be a world-class specialist at, because then it's going to be much easier for someone to refer someone to you. If you're an accountant and you want to grow on TikTok, oh, great, I got the TikTok ads guy. Or if you're the person who wants to grow on LinkedIn, okay, this guy's the LinkedIn guy who'll help with cold outreach or whatever. So you want to be known as the person who can help in that specialized area. And it is getting a lot more specialized. I think the
Yeah.
days of the generalist marketing agency, I think they're over.
I read that part of the book today, and it's also reminded me of some of the things that we are now talking with the other clients. Is there anything that you advise not to do,
Yeah.
as for the consultants? Do you have like a thing that you advise not they should not do?
Yeah, don't. A lot of times in consulting, I see people just making big promises, promising the world, and then not really able to deliver. So not being able to deliver on, and that's one of the reasons why I say, look, specialize in the thing that you can do, like in your sleep, because it's tempting, especially in the beginning, to be all things to all people. To like, yeah, I sure, yeah, I'll help you with that, no problem. I'll take that on or whatever. That is tempting, but
Mm-hmm.
I would avoid that at all costs, because you're going to get bad reviews, you're going to get refunds, you're going to get people who are unhappy with you, and most importantly of all, it's going to be a big opportunity cost, because there are people out there who are in high demand of the thing that you are an expert at, and so you're not directing your efforts and your focus at the big opportunity that you could have with them. So a lot of people waste a lot of their time on the loudest clients, and the
Mm-hmm.
loudest clients tend to be the worst clients generally. So you want to spend time on your very best, most ideal clients. So that would be my advice.
Thanks so much. So I have, at the end, I usually ask two questions to my guests. One of
Sure.
them is, if you would recommend one book other than your books, what would it be?
Yeah, look, so many incredible books. At the moment, I'm reading The Second Mountain by David Brooks, so which talks about you get to the top of the first mountain and you realize, okay, well, is that all there is? And then you start climbing kind of the second mountain, which is contribution, commitment,
Mhm.
finding a cause, something like that. So I'm really enjoying that book at the moment.
What's your favorite coffee location in Melbourne? Because Melbourne is
Melbourne
perfect in
is
coffee. Yeah.
Melbourne is good for coffee. Yeah, there's a local coffee shop near where I live called Via Batista. It's really really good coffee there.
Ah, okay.
Highly recommend it.
I was in Melbourne in 2017, I guess, and like one of my best brands, which is Aesop. They have their
Oh
headquarters in
yes,
Melbourne, and
yep,
I went through to see their headquarters over there. At that time, they were not
nice.
acquired, so it's such a nice place. Thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I hope people just go, and if they haven't read the one-page marketing plan, I would highly suggest that first of all they get that, and then
Thank you.
get the marketing book. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.